Every once in a while, the ultimate deal pops up that you absolutely cannot refuse. Everyone dreams of finding that perfect barn find, and today we have hit the jackpot. So we have our car trailer hooked up to our Prado, we have a Cam Martin, and we're gonna pick up a freaking car.
What up, son?
So obviously everyone dreams of owning one of the JDM hero cars, your Silvias, your Skylines, your Supras. And as you've probably seen by the thumbnail, we have bought an R32 Skyline.
And it has 4 doors.
It does have 4 doors. This thing is sight unseen. I've already paid for it. The deal is done, but we actually don't have any clue of the condition of this car. One thing I do know is the grass that's growing around the car is as tall as the car itself. It's turbo, it's auto, and that's pretty much all we know. But guess what? Right now, we're about to find out, and I cannot wait to see this thing for the first time. Dude, I'm so excited.
I'm so keen.
This is gonna be good. So we have arrived, and right in front of me right now is the car that we're buying, but there's also 1, 2, 3, 4 more? 5 more?
5 more.
Check this out, are you ready? Oof, look at this. You just don't find this anymore. 3 R32s sitting in grass as high as the freaking roof. That is insane. So Jordan, these are your cars?
Yes.
Tell us the backstory.
Oh, so we bought them from auction.
Yep.
Thought they were super cool. And then didn't do anything with them.
Just literally
Didn't do anything with them at all.
left them.
Yeah.
Look, there's one behind you over your shoulder.
Yes.
That's insane.
Yes.
But this is the Skyline that we are buying today. 4-door, turbo, automatic. Look at this thing. I'm so excited to get into it.
Pop the bonnet.
We're gonna pop the bonnet for the first
I
time.
get bitten by a spider. Or a snake.
Shit. Oh my god! What? Did that just happen? Are you serious?
That was huge.
There's a rabbit. That is insane. Are you kidding me?
You can't run.
Oh my god. Holy
Oh,
crap.
look at that rust.
Look at this thing. Immediately.
Shit.
She's rusty, but RB20, turbo, complete car. It's got the GDST wheels on it. Look how freaking rusty the brake calipers are. That's insane. I actually can't believe that just happened. Do you know how satisfying it's going to be to clean this?
I know.
I don't think I've ever seen like a dirtier, worse engine bay than this. That is crazy.
Yeah.
When's the last time this was started?
I didn't start it, no. Maybe like 10 years.
At least, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if these were like, this was imported from Japan, right? And sold at auction?
The guy imported them, and I'm sitting in his house, and then the bank sold them on him.
Far out. And now we've bought it. All right, let's have a look at the rear. I'm trying to make sure there's no freaking snakes out here. So, as you can see, we have a GDR wing on it. Did this come on the car?
Yes.
As it was?
Yes.
It's like a genuine Japanese like relic. It's actually insane seeing these cars just stacked up here. 4 of them. One over there too. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh my god. Oh, it's got an exhaust on it.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Oh, cannon boy.
Cannon, that's bonus.
Hell yeah. Nah, we're gonna fix that. We might keep these muffled, but we'll make a full stainless exhaust for this thing.
Yeah, oh bro, this thing is gonna get the treatment. I'm in my element right now. I'm like a kid in a candy shop.
Check for spiders.
Check for spiders, all right. We good? Oh, it smells like a Jack car.
Oh, it does. Keys in it.
Wow.
Let's crank it over.
All right, so as you can see, we've got a majorly cracked dash. We'll go over the car fully at the shop, like after we load it up, of
Luckily,
course.
we've got 5 other dashes to go through.
Dang.
Clean interior, but like it's pretty clean.
Yes, yeah. The seats and stuff look actually awesome. Yeah, that's gnarly. But what I see here is 140,000 Ks on the car, which is significantly low. Like that's
pretty good.
Do you reckon that's genuine though, coming from Japan?
It'd have to be. This thing hasn't ran for 10 plus years. Like you'd assume that's right.
I know that they potentially wind the Ks down in Japan. They have and previously, so it's hard to tell.
The interior doesn't look like it's got more than 140,000 Ks.
Correct. Yeah. So it actually, yeah, man, this is so exciting. Holy!
Got the boot.
I can't believe there's a rabbit under the bonnet.
Dude, could be a snake? Oh, no fuel pump.
Oh, so Jordan's already been in here.
And you left it open, huh?
Oh, bro, we got a world of hurt coming at us with this car, I think.
You do.
Should we have a quick look at the other ones?
Yeah.
So the rest of these cars are all for sale. We're going to take a quick look under the bonnet of each of them, but if you do want to buy one of these Skylines, DM me on Instagram @itsmikelack and I'll forward you on to my boy Jordan here and you guys can talk business. So here's a coupe. Hell yeah, dude. Oh, another one! Jeez!
That is amazing. Can we get 3 out of 3? Ah, damn it.
No rabbit. RB20 once again, all turbo.
Yeah. shit.
Dude, barn finds for days. All right, it's time to load up the Skyline, take it back to the shop, and we're gonna go through this thing with a fine-tooth comb and see exactly what we've bought. I cannot freaking wait. Oh, she's moving! So we are on our way back to the shop and I'm already so freaking stoked with our purchase. I have an idea in my mind of what I want to do with this car. But you guys are welcome to drop in the comments below, let us know what you think we should do with this car. It's in the shop, look at that. So there's so much to go through with this car. We only brushed the surface when we picked it up, but right now, we're gonna dig into it. Should we start front to back? Let's start front to back. Before we crack into this thing, we need to get my boy Cam Martin to 10K subs. So if you don't know who Cam is, he won the LZ World Tour. Very good driver, but also a very good YouTuber. His videos are amazing. He's currently building an RB25 E36. I freaking cannot wait to see that thing finished. He is currently killing the YouTube game. He's at 8.2K subs, and we need to get this guy to 10K.
That's a lot of subs, man.
Yeah, it is a lot of subs. So the link to his channel is the first comment down below. Go give him a sub. His R32 Skyline sounds absolutely insane. And so he's actually going to be helping us make this thing sound absolutely insane because I don't actually know enough about or much at all about RB engines. All right, time to reveal the secrets that this thing has hidden. Like I said, I bought this thing sight unseen. I was fully committed, ready to go, transferred the money, it's gone. So I own this car. So whatever secrets it holds, we're in this for the long haul. That's kind of nerve-wracking.
Let's do it.
All right, pop that. Hurry up. Oh, nice. Hey. Even though we just looked at it before, it's still surprising popping the bonnet and seeing this.
I know, and the corrosion, like it's
Dude.
so bad.
But you know what that means though? It's gonna be hella satisfying bringing this thing back to life.
For sure.
Of course you guys are gonna get one whole video on just cleaning this car.
It's gonna take a couple days, I reckon, cleaning this thing.
Crap.
Oh, the worst part is just seeing that rust and then...
Well, that rust back there, that's the firewall, that's pretty hectic, eh?
Yeah, it's not too great.
The battery tray gone?
Yeah, the battery tray's gone. I'm hoping that is something we can order from Nissan, maybe that's OEM as a part, a battery tray. I don't know, maybe it's wishful thinking right now, but it's complete, so that's a good start. Every part of me right now wants to get that pressure washer.
I know.
And just absolutely go ham on this thing.
Well, you're gonna have to wait till the next video for that.
Hell yeah. All right, so we have rust here. Not like unfixable. Clearly we're gonna have to paint this engine bay, which is fine.
Oh.
I do not know. What's that look
That
like?
actually looks good.
Is that good?
That actually looks half alright.
Okay, that's a good start. Oh, she's...
It's stinking.
Wait, where's the dipstick? I'll get a rag.
Oh, yeah.
All right, engine oil. Does it have oil? This is a big telling point. Oh, bro.
Mate, I wouldn't even bloody change it. I'd start it.
Put a battery in.
You know the cats that smell the broccoli? Can someone please tell me what's going on here? Like someone's heat wrapped or something in this at some point, right?
What is that?
I don't know. The oil filter looks old, like hella old.
Is that Japanese?
Yeah, it's blue. 110,000 Ks, the timing belt was done. The car has 147,000 Ks, which if that's real is so low. Like that's actually amazing.
That's good for how old the car is.
Correct. The interior would say that that probably is correct.
I agree.
Like the driver's seat, come over here, Cam.
Come with me.
Come on over here. So that's actually,
It's very nice.
what? Like it's a good car. The driver's seat, you can tell just by looking at this bolster here how many times it's gotten in and out of, but it's all actually really nice. The carpet, dude, is, look at that.
Shiza.
That's insane. Like that's actually really good, right? I actually kind of could believe that it does have 147,000.
I don't see why you wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
The reason the dash is also cracked because it's been sun damaged, so and left out in the weather.
Yes, it got left out at Jordan's in the sun for a long time.
Look at the body.
Dude, headlight is mint, huh? Like there's some really good parts to this car, and obviously there's some quite scary parts like that. The firewall rust is probably the worst of it.
Yeah, I can't wait till we start this and give it a big rev to shoot all that out.
So, First start will hopefully be next video. We're gonna give this a red hot crack. If you are watching this and you aren't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. The journey on this car is gonna be absolutely insane. We are not stopping until this car is absolutely mint. We don't know exactly where we're gonna go with it, but I have a couple of ideas in my brain about what I wanna do with it in terms of modifications and how I want it to look. So another piece of significant rust right here down the bottom of the rear guards, and that's because the water collects down here and it has mud flaps as well, which doesn't help. So the rust likely started here under the mud flap where the water sits, and then just travels all the way back. Woz already fingered it. Oh yeah, Woz has been in there, I can feel it.
Another little small issue is this rear bar. She's pulling away from her clip, so we'll have to figure that out.
The stereo system is absolutely perfect. It's still got the cassette player and a CD player. I freaking love that. We've got some vents in here because the left-hand vent's a little damaged. Obviously the dash definitely needs to be replaced, but that's fine. We're on the lookout for that already. I love these floor mats. They say Skyline Island, obviously the original ones. They're super nice, so we'll be keeping those. Well, everything's here on this car. That's the best thing about it. It's a complete car. I looked at shells and stuff like that, and I was tempted to buy them because, you know, they're cheap-ish, but then you've got to search for all the parts, and that's when things become an issue. So hard to find. Whereas we have a complete car here, so we have a great base to start off from. So first, we're going to pressure wash this engine bay, which is going to be so satisfying because, wow,
Just look at it. Look
it's
at all
insane. Everywhere. So I think a couple of other things are going to rear their ugly heads as we wash this thing and kind of start to discover new things. Let's freaking pressure wash this thing. Hell yeah. Hopefully the soap fixes the rust.
That'd be nice.
That'd be sick. We have discovered some more rust. This is pretty hectic, this spot. Oof, look at that. Dang, this car's had an interesting life. It's so crazy that a car with such low kilometers can have rust like this, but that's Japan for you.
No.
Guess what? Your boy's not deterred. It's just another problem we have to fix.
It just means we have to do an open door respray.
Yeah, bro. Nah, this thing's getting everything. Stick around to the end of the video to hear the exact plans for this car because I have decided what we are gonna do with it, which is gonna be pretty darn cool.
I'm so keen.
Yeah, I'm so keen. Done.
We're done.
Look how clean it looks now. It's actually a bit deceiving because it's still wet.
Nah, that's how good it looks in real life.
I mean,
That's how
look
good
at
it
your
looks.
face. Look, show.
Is it?
That is, look, you got dirt all over it. That is,
really?
So one thing we haven't actually mentioned about this car is how straight it is. Like every panel, great, 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 great. All good. Bonnet's fantastic, front bumper's fantastic. This is patinaed, but it's fully straight. And then we have a wee dent right here. That means that there's not a huge amount of body work itself to be done before we can paint this thing, which is great. Just the rust repairs, which we're not gonna talk about right now because there's a little bit of work in that. But now the thing everyone's been waiting for, it's time to see if this RB20 runs. So we are now back in the shop and it's time to get this thing running. So Cam has gone ahead and removing the front timing cover because we want to take a good look at this timing belt. That'll tell us a lot about the life of the motor, how it looks, make sure it's actually intact. I can see right here that the water pump has been replaced. It's got the gasket goo around it. We got new belts and stuff here. So at some point this thing was looked after, which is always a good sign.
Well, according to this, it's had a time belt 30,000 Ks ago. So once we get this off, we'll be able to confirm that and then we'll go from there.
Yep, and of course we want to put some oil down the spark plug holes and turn it over by hand to make sure that A, the motor rotates, and B, that we don't wreck the bores when we turn it over for the first time, so.
And then we got our SP tools to pull this thing apart.
Yeah, boy. Let's go. What's the percentage that this thing's actually gonna run? What's your like?
I'm 95%. I had a car the same, hadn't been started since 2002 or 2005 or something.
Yeah.
In a big crash. I did the same thing I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
Started up, misfired for a bit because it had these have hydraulic lifters, and when they've sit in for a long time, they bleed down, and then they don't have full compression. They miss. I think it's guaranteed to start. Everything else looks good around it. I think we're in for a good night.
Yes, it's gonna. I'm so hyped. Montage 3, 2, 1. Woo! good.
That
dude.
looks really good. I'm telling you now, 100% this thing will start.
Yeah?
I reckon 100%.
Oh yeah. And how's it looking? Dang.
Very good.
That's clean.
Oh,
Holy crap. Okay, so give us your RB verdict so far.
everything looks good.
I am literally mind blown. I've been watching him pull this apart and just been like, wow. Underneath all of that dirt is just RB beautiful goodness. By the way, how good does the Datsun look? That thing is almost, it's 99% done. Obsessed with that car. Spark plug number one. She's rich.
Yeah, not too bad.
They're the expensive spark plugs, yeah? They're iridiums. Yep. So we have all 6 spark plugs out now. Everything looks good. Clearly, there's been fuel just sat on them for many years. So thanks to our homies at Autobarn, we have brand new BKR 7E spark plugs that we're throwing straight in the motor. But first, we're throwing oil down the spark plug holes and we're turning it over and just making sure everything's Mickey Mouse. But we had a quick look down the bores and everything looks great.
Look where the coil pack seats around the spark plug hole, and
Yeah.
it's like brand new. So
It's healthy, eh?
it looks very, very nice.
So it's time to turn the motor over by hand for the first time. Make sure that she actually spins.
Scared.
Good luck, bro.
No, this is guaranteed to spin. Alright, ready?
Yep. Hey, rotation.
You can't hear any like scraping, like bores that are corroded and stuff. Like
Yeah.
it sounds perfect.
So we've got the timing locked in. Everything is timed beautifully by the looks of
And
things.
look down, and on the balancing, you can see it's lined up perfectly. So
Yeah.
we are laughing.
Awesome, bro. So next steps.
Put a battery on it.
Oh, and turn it over.
Make it over.
We may lose the battery. Turn over. Yep. Yes, sick.
Yeah, it spins over. Nice.
Great. So my boy Cam has been hard at work. So we're back together and ready to start. Look at this fuel setup we have hooked up. We have G'd up the fuel setup just to see if it runs.
Look at this
We didn't have any small post batteries. We only have the big post one. So these are G-clamped to the posts. It looks dodgy, but it works. Just to give you guys some context as to why we are not running the fuel from the back. So this is how dirty the boot is. And then you go in here. We have a little bit of work to do in the fuel tank. So putting a fuel pump back in there right now is not going to be ideal. We're that keen to see if this thing runs. And we just threw the fuel setup together for you and us. And right now, Cam is going to turn the motor over first, just to make sure it all works before we actually run fuel. So we're not going to run fuel right now. Give her a quick crank. Let's make sure it's all good.
3, 2, 1.
Yep. That is beautiful.
Fire up, huh?
All right. So Cam, tell us why it's not running.
Assuming because we have a main power fuse here that has been taken.
So I made a quick bridge for our fuse. That's this right here. Obviously, it looks dodgy, but at the same time, all we're doing is starting it and idling it. So we'll order that new fuse, but for now, that's gonna get us by so we can actually give this thing a start. All right, so it's about an hour later. Unfortunately, Cam had to go home. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. Let's get Cam to 10K. But I've been fiddling away. I've added a couple of things. Look at the contraption we have going on here. We've got the fuel pump on. I've added a ground here, and I went along and tapped all of the injectors basically with this and a hammer, and just give them a bit of a tap to try and see if we can loosen them up. So now I'm gonna try and start it again. To be fair, I don't have a huge amount of faith that I'm gonna get this started by myself. It's a little bit of a mission. We're running out of battery power, but nonetheless, we'll give it a crack. Come on, buddy. All right. Power's all good. Oh! What the hell? We have life! What? Holy crap, what the hell? Sounds like maybe it's running on 5 cylinders. Man, that is quiet. What? Oh my god. I'm dumbfounded. That is actually mental. And listen to it. We got Cam on FaceTime. She runs, boy.
I'm sorry, stoked. I knew it while you run.
Oh.
I don't think it's fair though.
I'm so happy. Oh my god. Oh, I wish I was out the back when that happened. Oh, look at the rust. Holy crap. It literally goes all the way back here and up here. That is insane. No way. Oh, it smells a little bit funky in here now. Oh. So I've run it up to temperature now, and she's Mickey Mouse. Look at that. She's got oil pressure up to temp. Don't want to rev it too much because we haven't done an oil change on it yet. I'm so freaking happy, man. So good. So it's the following day, and I didn't want to leave you guys high and dry. We've got the car running, but I actually want to see whether it will drive. And we cannot do that with the fuel setup we had jiggied up to the motor. So we're gonna fix the fuel pump in the rear. At the moment, this is what we have to deal with in the rear. Man, there's been some mice living in here, or rats, or both. So first thing we've got to deal with is getting rid of all of this gunk in here. I'm gonna use a wet vac and vacuum up all the crap inside as much as I can. We'll throw some fuel in it, and we're gonna throw a brand new Raceworks fuel pump into the tank. That's gonna replace this crusty old boy. Look at that. This is the Raceworks FP500 pump. So right now we're gonna throw this pump into the bracket and throw this into the back of the car and see if we can't get this thing running properly with its own fuel from its own fuel tank, and then we can put it in drive and see if the auto gearbox actually works. So our Raceworks fuel pump is all fitted to the carrier. Beautiful. I mean, the fuel pump looks good, the carrier looks like trash, but it'll do for now. There's just something about buying old trash cars and doing this to them that is just so freaking satisfying. I don't know why, but I absolutely freaking love it. So it's actually the following day because every battery and every car I had in the shop here went flat, which was actually pretty frustrating, but we have our Raceworks fuel pump in the tank. I actually ended up running brand new lines because the old ones were so freaking perished. All right, here we go. Put it in park. Oh, I hear the fuel pump. Hey, this thing freaking purrs. That is crazy. And since it's running, that means we can actually put it in drive and see if this thing will move forwards and backwards under its own power. The brakes are super soft because this thing needs a freaking bleed, but we're gonna end up replacing all the brakes anyway. But here we go, in reverse. All right, I can feel it. She wants to move. Here we go. Oh, we're heading outside. So good. The official first drive. Power steering works. Don't want to hit anything on our way out. So good. All right, she's in drive. Are we ready? Oh, yep. It drives. Oh, that is such a freaking relief, especially because we really need to be able to move the cars around our shop because we've got such a small shop. But this is so freaking good. I can't really drive too far, A, because the brakes suck, and B, I don't know what all this white stuff is over the windows like in the car, but it's everywhere. So also I can't drive it too far because it's still got that oil in it, and I really want to do a full service on this thing. I do not in any way, shape or form want to ruin this motor.
Time to throw the car on the hoist and see what it looks like underneath. Buying a car sight unseen and not knowing what it looks like underneath is always a risky choice. So I was especially nervous to put our R32 Skyline in the air and see exactly what secrets this rusty JDM icon had hidden away.
So we have our light, and it is time to have a first look under our R32 Skyline to see exactly what is going on here. So clearly we have a nice Japanese exhaust here, which is really freaking cool, and this will be absolutely staying on the car. It's actually a really nice piece, and I think it just suits the car really well. It actually does sound good thanks to that beautiful RB engine that we have up front in the car. Clearly back here we've got a whole bunch more mud, so there's a lot of cleaning still to be had under here, but what we're really looking for is rust. So we'll take a quick look at the rails first, and they look really nice and straight, which is a great start. Little tiny bits of kind of surface rust where the paint's kind of come off, nothing crazy, and just this piece right here is probably the more significant part, but again it looks to be surface, so we'll wire wheel that, have a quick look at it, spray some rust preventative stuff on there, and then re-undercoat that. This rail, again, there's some surface rust here, nothing crazy. The rail itself is in fantastic condition, and we just have one small kink right here, so it's nothing crazy. It is a shame that we do have a kink because everything else on the rails is so freaking good. So clearly we know we have rust in these rear quarters, and this is the most significant part down the back of the car from what I can see. We've got a little plate here that's got some rust on it, but that just unbolts so we can tidy that up. But here, this corner, we're basically going to have to rebuild this with sheet metal. I can actually see right through there. So there's a hole there that you can see up the other side, which is pretty crazy. This is actually an LSD diff, which is freaking amazing. Everything under here, we're obviously going to have to drop the rear subframe and recondition all of this, chuck some new bushes in where they're needed, put some fancy arms in probably, and obviously we'll definitely be doing coilovers in this thing. This rear quarter once again is looking pretty bad, and again up here it looks like it's going to go all the way through, so I'm not actually too worried about that. Bit of sheet metal, bit of welding, and a bit of help from Woz, and we should have those rear quarters looking absolutely beautiful. Going down to the front of the car now. Again here everything's just dirty, but nothing is out of sorts in any way, shape or form. There's no rust. Everything is completely stock under here, which is freaking awesome. So no modifications whatsoever, which is super rare for a car like this. Up here we can see there's a bit of rust going on the turbo and downpipe, but nothing crazy. All we're gonna have to do is just a bunch of cleaning. And right here, we've gotten to my absolute favorite part of the whole car. As you can see, the front of the bumper here, but behind here is this guy. So what this is an electronic front lip. Basically, once you get to a certain speed, this will pop down and come forward. And it's actually a really cool looking front lip, and I'm pretty sure these are really rare. I probably wouldn't have discovered it, but someone commented on our last video and said, hey, you've got the electronic front lip. Never knew about it, but that is just absolutely awesome. So all in all under here, we've done really well. Everything looks fairly tidy. So what I'm gonna do is we're going to whip off these rear wheels, and we're gonna look at the rust that we've got going on in these rear quarters and see exactly what we're gonna have to do to fix it up and get this thing back to original condition. All right, it's the moment of reveal. What are we gonna find behind here? Holy crap. Holy moly, that literally just fell out. Wow. So it's even worse than I thought it was gonna be behind there. Let that be a lesson to you guys. When there is rust, there is always more rust. So we're hoping for a slightly better result on the other side. Here we go. Oof, not that much better. I mean, the corner's still there at least, but rust everywhere. So because we at least still have the shape here, it means we can mock up the shape on this side and then repeat it on the other side. Whereas if this was completely gone like the other side, we'd have a much harder time with getting this radius perfect. Obviously rust is very scary, and tackling it can seem like a really big job. But if you break it down, it's pretty much just like building a puzzle. Each little piece that you put back, all of a sudden, you'll have a whole corner of the car back together.
First up, I made a template out of cardboard to mimic the shape of the part that we're replacing. Once we're happy with that, it's time to trace it onto our sheet metal before cutting it out. This process is actually pretty simple, it's just super time consuming to get it perfect. Once we've cut that out, I bent it to shape before cutting the rusty section out of the car. So I've been slaving away, and this is the shape that I have come up with. It's still a basic shape at the moment, but I'm actually pretty happy with it. So this guy just fits in something like that. So that's the basic shape at the moment. Around here we will do a little bit of panel beating once it's tacked in to get it perfect. And then here we've got to cut that out and we're going to weld in a second piece. The reason I did that is just because I wasn't confident in doing it all in one piece, especially with the shape of the top piece. So I want to make that separate. I just prefer to do it piece by piece, but I'm actually really happy with the fitment of that. So we're going to go ahead and tack it in. Before welding our piece in, I'm covering the area with this fish oil rust preventative. This should ensure that we don't get any more rust in this area in the future. We're using these cute wee magnets to hold the piece in place while we tack it in to ensure that we get that perfect fitment.
So our first piece of metal is officially tacked into the Skyline. And I've got to say, I'm very happy with this. It's looking really good so far. One thing I've learned is that you should not put too much heat into the panel because it'll warp. So you do tacks, let it cool down, then you do more, let it cool down until you've got full coverage. Otherwise you'll have a nice big warp in this panel that you'll have to bog up because of all of the heat that you've put into it. We've got a bit of work to do in this corner right here to make it look a little more stock. And of course we've got to throw this patch in right here as well. But nonetheless, I'm really happy with the fact we've got the body arc following that perfectly around on the wheel arch, which is nice. And I was actually just looking at the mud flap that we have here that we've taken off, doing a little bit of investigating to figure out why this rust happened. And basically, as you can see right here. Look at that. That's mud accumulation in there, and obviously something has made its home in there as well with all the little holes in there. But basically, the moisture accumulates in these mud guards, and then basically the rust, it sits in here. The rust kind of builds up in here and then obviously spreads out. So it's pretty unfortunate, and you can tell from the other side over here that it's clearly right here with the rust starts and kind of just spreads its way backwards. So it is a little bit sad, but at least we have the skills to repair this car and bring it back to its former glory, which I'm freaking so happy about. So that one metal patch there took me a couple of hours. Of course, the first one always takes the longest while you are trying to figure out the process, so the next spots will be a bit quicker. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and smash the rest of this out in a montage. That way it's all done and we can move on with the next thing. So here it looks like someone has tried to cover rust with bog. Look at that. So they've reshaped this whole thing. So clearly there was some rust here before. Wow, that's so bad. This is gonna test my fabricating skills, that's for sure. This is getting so bad. The deeper I dig, the more I find in this corner. Someone has repaired this very badly in the past. This is really bad, guys. No, so this has had a ding here at some point. Look at all the bog in it. That's crazy. Oh, so disappointing as well. I don't know if I have the skills to fix this. But before we even assess that, let's dig out the rest of this bog and see how bad the area really is. Oh, of course, this is so typical of Japanese cars.
So I started to chip away with a hammer and chisel, and when that wasn't working, I brought out the grinder. This was honestly the most amount of bog I've ever seen in a car, and it wasn't looking good.
So this is really bad. It's pretty much worst case scenario for what I have discovered. So kudos to whoever did the bog work on the car, because they did a really good job of like hiding it and having the sill look, it's so straight and it's done really well, but look at the amount of bog that they've used in this. I kept going all the way back and we finally hit metal here, which means all of this back here is all bog. Even by my standards with doing bodywork, that's too much bog. I'm pretty blown away actually at this point. Since we're probably gonna have to weld a new piece in, I think what we'll do now is cut this piece out to see exactly what we're dealing with in behind. This stuff up here doesn't matter as much to us because we are going to be running GDR wide body on the back of this thing, because the goal is to have a really super clean 4-door GDR style R32, which is going to be freaking sick. And that basically covers like the whole back panel all the way down under here and goes down here as well. So it covers this piece, but obviously this, it absolutely does not cover. It also covers the door as well. So like this right here won't matter because we'll have the wide body over the guard, which is pretty sweet. We're also gonna mold the wide body. No rivets or nuts here. It's gonna be super smooth and look rad. So that's kind of cool, but obviously we can't really move forward with the car until we have this situation sorted out. So this has kind of stalled everything for us right here.
So I grabbed that SP Tools rattle gun and removed the door, which wasn't easy by myself. Once I removed the door trim, it was time to cut out the sill panel, which was honestly one of the scariest things I've ever done to a car.
So we are balls deep in bodywork right now, way deeper than I ever expected to go, but here we are. And we have cut out a giant piece of our R32 Skyline. It's kind of mental seeing this in this state, but sometimes you do have to go backwards in order to go forwards and look at the inside of this piece. So clearly they did give it a red hot crack when it comes to trying to repair the metal, because they put so many holes in it trying to pull it out. You can see like they've used some kind of device here to try and pull the metal out, and when they weren't successful, they just smashed on the bog. Now the chances of us finding an R32 to cut this piece out of, very low. Very, very low indeed. I have put the feelers out, but of course we need to continue on with this build because YouTube demands content. So what we're gonna do is I'm going to grind all of the bog off this for starters and kind of see where we're at with the metal, but you can see there's a big crease here. So we're gonna give that a crack at getting that out. But worst case scenario, what we'll do is use this bottom piece and this top piece, because they're all metal, and then hand make this piece through here with sheet metal, weld it all back in nicely, and you'll never even know that this was this bad. But it just means that I have a lot more work on my hands, but hey, it is what it is. I actually really enjoy this stuff. I find it very fascinating, and of course I enjoy learning new things as well, which is sweet. The best thing about this whole process is we are actually running side skirts on this thing as part of our whole GDR body kit. So there'll be a side skirt here, there'll be wide body here. That doesn't mean we don't want to fix this to be absolutely perfect, but it will be covered as well with side skirts and stuff like that. So it's all gonna look awesome in the end. But we want a beautiful Skyline before we put the body kit and stuff on. So I'm taking this outside and I'm gonna grind all of the bog off. I'm not looking forward to it. Wish me luck.
So I ground away at the bog for what seemed like hours.
So after grinding the most amount of bog I've literally ever ground off, this camera is just full of bog dust right now, and this piece is pretty well cactus. There's no way we're gonna get this back to anything good, so we're gonna use pieces of it and we're gonna make the other bit out of sheet metal. I'm so beyond my skill level right now. This is so intimidating, but we've got to do what we got to do. So I'm gonna go ahead, chop this up, and we're gonna make up our new piece. Hopefully we can get it all kind of tacked back into some kind of Skyline shape, but this is crazy.
I cut the top and bottom off our broken piece and welded them back into the R32. Then we made our trusty cardboard template and traced and cut out a new piece out of sheet metal. The last step was to bend the metal to shape whilst referencing the old piece to make sure the new shape was absolutely perfect.
So here is our new piece, fully fabricated and handmade by us. This literally took like 3 hours for me to make this, shape it, get it right. And it's officially the most complicated piece of bodywork that I've ever made and done. But we're not out of the woods yet, because obviously we still have to weld this in the car. I've primed the back side of it so that this can no longer rust, obviously, when we weld it in, because once it's in, baby. So let's go ahead and weld this into the car. Many hours later, and we have officially completed the hardest piece of bodywork I have ever done on a car. And I've got to say, I'm absolutely wrapped with the results. To be fair, I wasn't quite sure whether we had the skills to get this done, but check this out. Here is our new sill that we have welded into our car, and look at this. We absolutely nailed the shape here, which I'm so freaking happy about. Like, to get this bend perfect took so much time, but I'm so freaking happy with the end result. As you can see, I put the door back on, and check this out. Boom. So good. Clearly, I still have to rebuild this whole corner here, but obviously we were thrown a curveball when we discovered all the bog, so this has taken up all of our time. But I managed to retain like this bit here in the middle and all that, because I just want it to be as factory looking as possible. There are so many more hours left in getting that thing complete, but at least we won't have 2 liters of bog in the sill, which means I will sleep so much better at night knowing that that isn't there, even though we're putting a side skirt over this whole thing anyway. But I do want this car to be as perfect as possible and effectively be rust free. So I do want to show you something really, really cool that I found in the car before when I was looking under the dash. Check this out. So in under here, I noticed this red thing that's clipped under the dash. It's a freaking flare. How crazy is that? So like, I guess you get into an emergency situation and you can like pull the flare and like set it alight and people can find you, I guess. This is what I love about Japanese cars. They have so many crazy quirks. You always discover at least something weird or random in the car, even if it is 2 liters of bog in your sill.
Time to remove this RB20 motor from the engine bay.
So I've got Cam here because we're going to use his knowledge to help us get this engine out of the bay. How long is it going to take us?
I reckon 2 hours, maximum 2 hours.
I don't know about that. Set your timers right now. Look, we set the clock.
Oh, 6:30.
6:30.
It'll probably be 7 o'clock by the time we start on, I reckon, so.
All right, so 2 hours. 7 o'clock, 8, 9 p.m.
Oh, we'll be done well before 9 p.m.
So pretty much the goal is, obviously we're going to fix the rust, but we're also going to paint the engine bay. We're going to do a bit of a rattle can resto on the motor, as well as replacing any gaskets and seals that need to be replaced. There's a high likelihood we're going to discover new gremlins in this engine bay as we start to pull it apart. I'm freaking excited though. There's no time like the present. Let's get this thing in the shop and let's start pulling this RB20 motor.
First up, we need to remove everything from the underside of the car, so we threw it up on the hoist. We sprayed all of the rusty bolts with WD-40 to give us the best chance of removing them without stripping anything. We removed the drive shaft bolts and dropped the oil from the pan. It definitely smelled like it had been sitting in the engine for the past 10 years, but it wasn't the worst oil we'd ever seen. Next up, we carefully removed our beautiful Japanese exhaust, as we will be reusing this for the build. Lastly, we removed the plastic covers from underneath the engine, and it turns out we brought half of the farm home with us. So we've been slaving away and we've got everything we need done underneath the car, I think.
Yeah, we just got to undo the engine mounts and the gearbox mount, and once everything's out from up top, we can pull it out.
Dude, look how manky it is under here. That is absolutely, under here when we pulled the trays off, it's just mind-blowing. Look at that. It's everywhere, but that's why we're doing it.
And then if you look, here's a bit of water, because someone broke the radiator.
Yeah.
I was trying to pull the little plug that undo it does it, and it just broke.
Yeah, you get that with the big jobs.
So I owe Mike a radiator.
No, you don't. No. All good. Car's coming down and we are gonna just keep smashing this job out. I cannot wait to get this motor out of the hole. So the car is now back down and we're gonna get to work on the engine bay, pulling everything off that we need so that we can actually pull the motor out of the bay.
This thing has the early setup Hicus in the R32s and a bit different to the R33, so I'm trying to work out where it goes and figure it's gonna be a pain in the ass to pull apart.
It is gonna be a pain.
It's gonna be a pain. It's gonna add maybe 20 minutes to the job.
That's all right. I'll put you guys on the tripod. We're gonna get to work. Time lapse. Let's go. So we started removing the basics from the engine bay whilst also babysitting Cam so he doesn't throw everything around the workshop. I removed the radiator and we got rid of the bonnet to give us easier access to the engine. Removing all of the stale 30-year-old rubber always takes so much longer than you'd expect. Check this out. How did this thing run?
Look down there. Look down through
crazy. Like it's actually grown up through here.
Yeah, through the intake.
All the way down.
Yeah. That's so funny.
That's freaking mental, dude.
Scared the crap out of me when I pulled it apart.
The barns are coming to get you. It's everywhere through the car though, like. Whoa!
God.
Jeez, dude. Guess what's lived down there?
I don't want to know, eh?
I know. Probably gonna find maybe.
This is our first look in here as well. If there's any rust, so caked in there. Looks good, eh?
Actually doesn't look too bad.
A little bit there, surface rust,
That's
but
surprising. Where the rats at though, eh? Brought them home, they live in the factory now. So while Cam is going ahead and just getting a couple of things removed around the motor, we have noticed some brown kind of-ness under here. Brownness? Is that what you would call it?
cancerousness.
Yeah, so what we're gonna do is pull the wipers off and I'm gonna pull this off, see exactly what's going on under here, but please cross your fingers behind your TV screen, computer or mobile phone because we don't need any more rust in our lives right now. We've got enough in this engine bay, so here we go. Moment of truth, Cam. Here we go. Woo! So, my side's all good.
You might actually be in business.
Not too bad. Oh, bit of...
That's
over there. What is that?
That's nothing. That's nothing.
Right.
Don't even look at it.
Don't look at it.
Don't even look at it.
Yeah, a couple wee holes. You know what? I'm not mad at that. I thought it was going to be so much worse. That potentially could have been like, that whole section could have just been absolutely cactus. So that's not too bad. We can chuck a couple of patches in there and cover it back up with plastic and pretend like it never existed. This is the worst part of the job for sure.
Auto looms, man, like there's so much oil down there. I was a little ambitious on my 2 hours because I forget when things are bone stock, everything is there. And things are rusted, things that break and things are quite difficult to get to, i.e. that.
So everything is finally off in the engine to the point where we think we can probably pull the motor out of the bay, thanks mostly to Cam because he knows what he's doing. So now we're gonna put it in the air and we're gonna undo the transmission mounts. Then we're putting the car on the ground because your boys don't actually have an engine crane, so we're gonna use the hoist.
No, we're gonna use these.
Yeah, there. Woo, let's go. Last but not least, the engine mounts.
Oh! See the engine tip?
That's not good.
Yeah, it's not tipping anymore.
Please don't fall out. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to remove our RB20 motor from the Skyline, from the Barn Find Skyline, and this is the setup that we have to remove it.
Mike wanted to use this tiny little chain.
To be fair, I didn't want to use that. That's Waz's
No, it's this one.
Engine
This one
lifting
anyway.
chains.
Still.
Oh, so it's not as bad. That's probably highly rated. Like it would.
It just looks so cheap, and I didn't want to risk it.
You don't trust it.
And slowly but surely, inch by inch, that RB20 motor started to come out of the engine bay. Of course, it wasn't without a bunch of spilt oil.
After more hours than we anticipated, we have the motor out of the car. What's the time? 10:13.
An hour extra.
An hour extra. That's actually not too bad. But look, RB20, this thing, I actually love this motor, but I love the fact that it's now out of this hole so that I can go ahead and fix. Look at that. That is insane. I also just put my hand. So much oil.
Look at the front bar.
There's oil everywhere. The weird thing about the RB20 automatic gearbox is you can't drain the oil without taking the whole pan off the gearbox.
So stupid.
There's no oil drain bung, so we couldn't drain it, and when we lifted the motor out, we literally got oil everywhere. This engine bay, we are gonna come back tomorrow and we're gonna pressure wash this thing, because look at it, it's so dirty. It's gonna be the most satisfying pressure wash. Huge thanks to Cam for helping me. Literally wouldn't have got this done without him. He did most of the work, if I'm fair. So, do me a favor, we're trying to get Cam to 10K. How much you got at the moment? 10K subscribers?
86. I got like 200 or 300 subscribers from the last video, so thanks to you guys.
You! Cam's videos are sick. He's a man, his R33 is insane. Go and subscribe to him. Let's get him to 10K. Thank you, Cam. You're a legend.
Thank you.
I'm done. We're gonna put this stuff away for now. I'll see you guys in the morning. We're gonna pressure wash this thing. I'm gonna sleep for like 20 minutes. Bye. So it is now the following day. Cam is now gone. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. But before we finish this video, we're gonna degrease this stanky ass engine bay, because this is disgusting and I'm not having it sitting in my shop looking like this. I guess the best thing about how rancid this engine bay is will be the transformation that's going to happen. You paint it, put a reconditioned engine in it, it's going to look absolutely redonkulous. But right now, let's freaking clean this thing.
So I use this red stuff degreaser and I mix it at a 50-50 ratio with water. You can adjust this ratio depending on how aggressive you want the degreaser to be, although if you have it too aggressive, it can take the paint off. To be fair, I find the 50-50 mix works perfectly.
Here we go. Ugh, that's disgusting. Oh no, I just got dirt everywhere. Well, I'm now officially covered in dirt, but that was definitely worth it because the engine bay is a whole lot cleaner now. It probably doesn't look amazing on camera, but it definitely looks 100% better than it was. And that's just gonna make it a lot nicer to start working in, because obviously we need to strip everything out of this engine bay. We're gonna move straight on to another job, and that is the interior of this car. Now, there are some high and low spots of this interior. The high spots being, we have the stock Skyline floor mats, which is amazing. The carpet looks to be in amazing condition. The seats are in fantastic condition, which is very cool. But if you can see right there, we'll switch over to the other side of the car. The dash in this thing is absolutely cactus. Like, it's not just cracked, it is toast. Gone.
Pretty bad. It's probably the worst one I've seen.
It is, and that's because this guy left it in the sun on his farm. Was it as bad when you parked it up?
Exactly the same.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, so it was already
My
bad.
farm didn't make it any worse.
Oh, okay, so it's definitely not your fault.
No, not mine.
You can't even see through the freaking windscreen, but the interior needs such a freaking clean.
Dude,
I don't know what's on. Yeah, I don't know what's on the windscreen, but it's pretty damn bad. It's covered in what looks to be cocaine or some residual dust of some sort. It's really sticky as well. But the dash absolutely needs replaced. It is so bad, you could pretty much live in these cracks. So that's part one of the thing we need to do. Clearly we need to clean the absolute crap out of this interior. The steering wheel is being replaced. That is too far gone. And then in the back here, oh, everything looks pretty good in the back apart from all the spider webs, but we do have the seams have kind of come apart on the back seats here, but luckily your boy Mike is secretly quite handy with a sewing needle, so we're gonna pull that out and fix that as well. But pretty much today we're gonna go to absolute town on this interior. The plan being to have this thing look absolutely mint by the time we're finished with it. Luckily we do have a replacement dash. Now this was not easy to find. Finding an R32 dash with no cracks, not easy. But luckily, the boys at Keep It Reed came to the party and hooked me up with this thing. Now, clearly, it doesn't look to be in the best condition, but no cracks anywhere. And with a little bit of elbow grease, I'm fairly sure we can get this thing back to brand new. As you can see, someone's sticker bombed this thing. Clearly this is from the early 2000s. Fun fact, I've never pulled a dash out of a Skyline. I think the only car I've ever pulled a dash out of was our rear-wheel drive Evo when we did the swap. So this is gonna be an interesting experiment. We're gonna go to town and kind of figure how this thing comes out. Where do we start?
I reckon pull the trims off, radio, the surround on the dash, and then just keep undoing bolts.
Let's do it.
Comes out. Yeah.
I love that theory. Let's go. 3, 2, 1, dash time. Pew!
We started by removing the trims, which was actually really difficult to do without breaking anything due to how brittle the plastic was after all of those years in the sun. Unfortunately, some didn't survive, so we're gonna have to replace those. These clips were the biggest pain in the ass to undo.
There's always one that you just miss or forget about. Bloody stubborn plugs. Yes, success. Stubborn little thing, god damn.
Next up, we're removing the old cassette head unit. We actually won't be putting this back in the car as we will be replacing it with a newer Apple CarPlay head unit.
So Jordan has now left the building. I'm pretty sure he saw how bloody finicky this job was and just decided, nope, it's not for him. So it looks like we're on our own for the rest of this job, but we got this. So basically everything we touch in this thing is kind of very brittle. Because of the heat, this car's kind of sat in for such a long time, so anything you touch, it just breaks. Luckily, Just Jap sell these vents brand new, so we can go ahead and buy them, throw brand new vents in our nice new secondhand old dash. So the beauty of having another dash sitting here is that we can literally look and see where the dash is bolted into the car, at what points we need to undo them. This one up here, and then the same on the other side. And obviously the cluster needs to come out as well, and then it's bolted here and here. So it's not really bolted down in that many places, which is very handy. So all we have to do now is remove the cluster, remove those bolts, and we should be able to pull a dash out of the car, which is really freaking exciting.
So out comes the cluster with 4 screws, and we're being really careful here not to break this, as it has the low kilometer reading on it and would really suck to replace. Once that's out, we undo the 4 main bolts and we can finally remove the dash.
Yes! So the dash is finally out of the car, and that was a massively finicky job. The hardest part, I'd have to say, is actually undoing the plugs. They're so brittle and like stuck in there just because they've been in there forever, and the heat and all of that. They're really hard to pull out, and it's really hard on your hands. You can't really get pliers in the tight spots as well, so you really just need to use your hands. Very difficult. And man, the old dash is just absolutely cactus. This thing is going straight in the bin. But finally the good part, the part that's gonna change the whole interior, and that's putting our brand new, but not brand new at all, second-hand dash. But first things first, we need to give this thing a good clean. So it is time to get the pressure washer out. We are using the Sonax Rich Foam. Let's friggin' go. Not sure if this is the correct way to clean your dash, but oh no. Oh, I've got a weak flow. Oh, that's not what you want. What's going on? It helps if you turn it on first. This stuff smells so freaking good. Quick scrub-a-dub-dub. And we wax off. So the last thing we're gonna do to our dash is a treatment that is probably a little bit controversial with you guys. I like to throw the Sonax tire gloss gel onto stuff like this to make them pretty much look brand new, but it also kind of protects it. Because if you can see how it looks at the moment, like it looks fine, but it looks old and dated. So what I'll do is just chuck some of this onto a sponge, and then we'll rub it into the dash and then wipe it off. And the best thing about this stuff is it's not like tire shine, so it doesn't look glossy. It looks like, basically makes it look brand new. It's got like a matte look to it. So when I use it on my tires as well, they just look like brand new tires instead of looking like really shiny, like you've tried too hard, I guess. So throw it on there like this and just wipe it on. That's actually a used car salesman trick from way back. Silicone spray on everything. Makes everything in the car look brand new. But the reason I much prefer the Sonax gel over the silicone spray is because once you wipe the excess stuff off with the rag, it just feels like perfectly stock again. Like that doesn't have a sticky residue, whereas the silicone spray tends to leave a sticky residue. So that literally just feels perfect and brand new again. But I'm actually so freaking happy with the end result of that, because that looks insane compared to what it was before. Like that is amazing. amazing. Just for reference, here's the old dash that we pulled out versus the new dash. So it's gonna be an absolute night and day transformation inside our interior. Also, for anyone wondering, I actually picked this dash up for $150. So shout out to the Keep It Reet crew for hooking it up, because that is dirt cheap. But enough talking, let's throw the dash into our frickin' car.
Before I threw the dash in, I cleaned the windscreen with the Sonax glass cleaner, which worked a treat. Then I installed the ducting on the back of the dash before it was finally time to install our new dash. And I have to admit, this was about as difficult as it was removing it, especially by yourself.
So that was probably one of the freaking hardest jobs I've ever done on a car. It's literally taken me all day to remove the old dash, clean the new dash, and put it in. Luckily, the end result is so freaking rewarding. Everything's just tentatively put in at the moment, apart from the dash, that's permanently in. All the trims and stuff are just kind of sitting there at the moment because there's more things I want to do wiring-wise in the car, but check this out. Oof, that is so good. Instantly a massive improvement on the car. I also cleaned the windscreen like 5 times and it's still pretty dirty, but you can see like no cracks, baby. So good. So the back trims on the old dash were fine, but when I removed them, they just absolutely crumpled to dust. So there was no saving those. So I'm gonna have to get the back trims and the 2 vents up here, but like, I'm so happy that that job is done. I guess I'd say that is one of the bigger jobs done on this car. That was one of the big problems with this car, the cracked dash. When I looked at that, it put me off big time. Not enough obviously to buy the car because we still bought it, but like when you see things like that, that just scares you when you're buying a car for sure. So the fact that we've got that job done, absolutely is so good. So I'm freaking pumped, but only half the job is done. We still need to do the rest of the interior. So we're gonna strip all of this out, give it a mad vacuum, clean all the windows, and of course we need to take this back seat out and fix it up. So with the last morsel of energy I have left, let's go ahead and get that done. Also removing the auto selector, so good. Goodbye to you. Manual swap incoming.
So I finally get to take all of the rubbish out of this car.
Look how freaking clean that carpet is. That is literally brand new. Hell yes.
And after finding some interesting things, it's time to remove the rear seats. I used our SP Tools pry bar to lift and remove the bottom part of the seat. Then we removed the 2 M6 bolts holding the top half of the seat in before lifting it off its mounts and pulling it out.
So the back seats are finally out, and I did get really excited for a second there because I thought I found a nudie mag picture in the back of the Skyline, and I was like, hell yeah, and then I started opening up and it was like all sticky. But I gotta open it and it turns out it's just a picture of Alyssa Milano with like fruit around her neck, which is still cool because she's pretty hot, but it's not as cool as finding a nudie mag in the back of a Japanese car imported from Japan. Anyway, so the back seats are actually quite sun damaged. Clearly because they've been sitting on the farm for so long, but like as you can see here, the color here versus the color down here is completely different. And then where the seat belts have been, you can see it clearly. So the rest of it's like faded, and then under the seat belts here, it's still nice, and that's the color that it was before it got all sun faded and damaged. You can see here, there's like a CD that was sitting here, which is crazy. I'm gonna give this all a nice clean up. We're gonna repair this stuff here with our handy dandy sewing skills. Well, it looks like mice or something have been here, so we need to clean all this up and get it back to tip-top shape.
So apparently learning how to sew in high school has actually finally paid off, and I only stabbed myself 26 times when fixing this rear seat. And it actually turned out pretty good. Next up, I went to town cleaning the floor mats and seats, and the color of the butt juice that came out of them was so questionable. I also found some of the farm hidden underneath the center console. But once that was all clean, it was time to slap it all back together, and the end result made the 2 days of hard work absolutely worth it.
So we are all done with our interior transformation, and I'm absolutely over the moon with the result. We definitely have something we can work with this car, which is freaking amazing. The interior is so important because this is the space that you want to feel comfortable in, and a clean interior in a Skyline, actually quite hard to find. So this, look at it, looks so good. Everything come up really nice. The door cards are awesome. There's a couple of things I have to do, like this is lifted here, but you can actually just take it apart and then basically you use adhesive to stick that back down, and that'll actually come up almost brand new. So little things like that we can fix, but like it looks so much better than when we started. Absolutely night and day. The rear looks awesome. I've got the seats back at the moment so you can't really see, but like look nice and stitched up. Everything is just clean. The door cards, I gave them a bit of a wipe and they're just perfect. Like everything looks awesome. But overall, I'm super happy with the result. But that's basically a massive job done in the car.
Now it's time to take this janky RB20 motor and give it a good refresh.
So as you'll see today, the inside of the motor is beautiful, but clearly the exterior of the motor leaves a lot to be desired. So today is going to be one of those really satisfying engine overhaul videos. So I went to see the homies at Autobarn, and we've got a bunch of stuff so we can refresh our RB20 and make it look immaculate to go in our brand new immaculate engine bay, which is not immaculate yet, but will be immaculate in the next video because we're going to overhaul that thing, delete the rust. But first things first, we need to tear this bad boy down. Let's get to work.
First up, we're removing the turbo heat shields and aircon compressor and giving all of the rusty old bolts a good old squirt of WD-40 before removing the rest of the bracketry and the turbo. Unfortunately, a few of the studs snapped when we were removing the turbo manifold, so we'll have to take care of that later. Other than that, the teardown went relatively smoothly considering how weathered everything was.
Can confirm that took way longer than I expected it to. And we made one hell of a mess. I guess that's to be expected with such a freaking dirty motor. But here we have it. And look how freaking dirty this thing is, man. Honestly, we brought half the farm home with us with this thing. We hit a couple of roadblocks as well in terms of snapping a couple of studs. This one was already broken, like the bolt was just sitting there loose. Another one here. And another one here. You can use easy outs. This has clearly been leaking for quite a while now. I'm just freaking happy that this thing is fully stripped. Like, all of that was just so much harder than I expected it to be. But right now, we're gonna whip this thing outside and pressure wash it, which is gonna be so freaking satisfying. And I know that's exactly what you're here for. You're here for the transformations. And so am I. So let's get washing. I'm literally covered in RB gunk right now. Disgusting. So the engine's nice and clean and we've gotten the farm off the motor now. It actually come out pretty good. Obviously it still looks crusty because the motor is old, right? And we're gonna clean all that up. We're gonna paint the block and all that. But first we need to get these studs out of the head. And the way that we're gonna do that is we've got the welder here and we're gonna weld these nuts. Basically we're gonna hold them in there, fill it with weld. The weld won't stick to the head because it's alloy, because we're MIGging. So it'll only stick to the stud, and then we're going to weld the nut on, and we should just be able to undo it. The heat should help get it loose as well. So that's the theory. Who freaking knows if it's going to work or not? All right, here we go.
And you wanted to hold that.
I was be fine. All right, ready? We're going to do the rest. 3, 2, 1. Awesome. So now we've got our spanner. We're going to see if it actually works. That wasn't even hard. Do you reckon it's coming out? Yeah. Oh. Yeah, that worked amazing.
Once we got all of the broken studs out of the head, I jumped on the wire wheel to clean up the block, and these things work awesome.
And make everything look pretty. By the way, I just took the rear wheel drive Evo for a quick thrash, and this thing is just so damn fun. If you haven't seen that build, go check it out. It kind of should have more views, in my opinion, than it does, because honestly, this is the coolest thing that I've ever built. So if you want to support the channel, go watch the build. So freaking good. But now, we're grabbing the black heat paint that we got from the homies at Autobarn, and we're gonna paint, first of all, the block, and then we've got to paint all of the accessories and stuff from the motor as well, because they're looking better, but they're not looking perfect, and I want everything looking absolutely immaculate. In Australia, this is what we call the rattle can Rico. We just paint everything, make it look all beautiful. Of course, we're gonna put all nice new gaskets on everything as it goes back on as well, so we're not just painting stuff. Right now, let's go ahead, paint our block, make it look nice. It looks so crusty at the moment. Ah, instantly better. So now we're gonna go ahead and paint all of our silver stuff, the intake, manifold, and everything, and that's what's gonna make the engine really pop in the engine bay. Once again, the homies at Autobarn have hooked us up with this engine spray, which I've never used before, so it's gonna be super interesting. finally, we have a bunch of painted stuff here, and we're gonna throw it onto our RB20 motor. Now, I'm still waiting on a full gasket pack for this motor, so we're gonna throw all new gaskets in everything. But for now, we can just dummy fit it all and kind of see how it's all gonna come together, which is pretty sweet. So let's go ahead and dummy fit the manifolds and all the painted stuff onto the motor.
Alright, now obviously is the fun part. We get to bolt the turbo onto the motor. Always an exciting part of a build. At the moment on this build, what we're going to be using is this Max Beating Rods turbo. It's just literally a stock replacement for the OEM turbo that we have. It is a slight upgrade for the RB20, which means that we will make a little more power with this aftermarket turbo, but it also means we're putting a brand new turbo on the motor. Now these turbos, from experience, are pretty good. We had one on the Fevo build that we had, did 10,000 kilometers on that turbo, and we were pushing it super hard. Zero problems whatsoever. Obviously the motor blew up when they stole the car, but the turbo itself was still good. I sold that turbo setup, and I believe the current owner is very happy with it, and it's still working to this day. So these turbos are a fantastic budget option. Obviously, if you're looking to go super high spec and everything, spend the money, get yourself a better turbo. But for our application, we're probably gonna make between 220 to 250 kilowatts. This is going to do the job. We'll probably run about 14 PSI with it. Should sound good. It bolts up to the stock location, like I said, which is really, really simple. We get to keep our awesome Japanese exhaust, which I'm super stoked about. So let's throw this turbo onto the motor, but use code MikeLade for 10% off at checkout as well. Save yourself some money across the whole Max Beating Rods website. Let's throw this on. This thing's looking so much better than it was at the start of this video, but one thing that is kind of annoying me, obviously, are the rocker covers. They look manky, and now that the rest of the motor is starting to look really nice, they just do not fit in. I wasn't gonna paint them in this video, but I feel like I just can't leave this motor as it is without painting them. So I went down and saw the team at Complete Auto Paints here in Melbourne, around the corner from my shop. Awesome bunch of guys, and I got some paint. Now, what color did we get? Well, I'm kind of in a two birds, one stone scenario right here, because I'm sure you guys have noticed my Datsun 280ZX in the background of these videos. This thing is absolutely awesome. It's on airbags, it's got a half cage in it, and it has a turbo L28 motor in it. This motor sounds absolutely phenomenal. Full custom turbo setup, all done by us here on the channel. But the only thing that's kind of annoying me about this car is the flares. I don't know if I like the black, so I want to paint match them. And of course, to paint match them, I had to get some Bayside Blue paint, because that is the color of our Datsun R34 Bayside Blue. The color that we've picked for our rocker covers is Bayside Blue, so that I can paint the flares and the rocker covers at the same time, which is kind of awesome.
So off come our janky looking RB20 rocker covers so we can prep them for paint. I gave the covers a quick wipe down with wax and grease remover before laying down some primer as our base coat. I just used primer out of a can for this step, as it's much easier than preparing the primer gun. Then it's time to mix up and lay down the gorgeous Bayside Blue.
So our Bayside Blue rocker covers have finished drying, and check this out. For a quick spray job, they came out really freaking awesome. It's crazy what a lick of paint can do. This thing is looking hella fresh. I'm half tempted to throw this into the 280ZX just because with the Bayside Blue rocker covers, it would look so good in this engine bay. Now, obviously, I have to show you how the flares look on the Datsun. So this is how it looks with the painted flares, and I've got to say, I am a massive fan. I think they make the car look way cleaner. It looks like we've actually put effort in now, whereas when the flares were black, it kind of looked like they were a bit of an afterthought, but like the gold and the blue looks so freaking good. So I'm definitely happy with that. Would love to know what you guys think in the comments. I know everyone's gonna have a different opinion. The black flares did still look pretty sick, but hey, the RB20 is looking fresh and ready to go into the Skyline. And now obviously we need to take care of the engine bay. Before we paint this engine bay and make it look brand new, we clearly need to take care of the rust. We've got some rust here, here at the battery tray, and here at the back of the Firewall. And to tackle that rust, everything needs to go, as well as the front guards and the front bar. So right now, that is exactly what we're gonna do. We're gonna get to work removing all of this stuff.
As we take the Skyline apart piece by piece, we start to see the full effect the years of neglect have had on this car. Every plug and bolt takes twice the effort to remove, but hopefully it'll all be worth it in the end.
Wow. Whose idea was it to buy a rusty Skyline from a frickin' farm? Yep. That is absolutely insane. And also, every single bolt looks like this. Like, look at it, it's crazy. There's dirt everywhere, there's mouse stuff everywhere. Jeez. On the bright side, that means I guess the transformation when we do finish it is gonna be absolutely phenomenal. But for now, it just means it's a giant pain in the ass getting everything out of this engine bay. We've got one corner done, so I guess that's a start. Although, these bolts are stuck here on the intercooler, so that's gonna be fun to get out. Nonetheless, we keep on keeping on. These SP Tools rattle guns are absolutely insane. Perfect for this job. Yo. There she goes. First look underneath at the rust. Holy moly.
Everything looks sweet through here.
Yeah, sick.
Just a little bit of surface in that.
Yeah, it's just wire brushed up.
Surface and
It looks like a family of rats had once called the Skyline their home, and cleaning up their mess was super satisfying. A quick wire brush and a vacuum and things were looking way tidier.
Our engine bay on our R32 Skyline is finally stripped and empty. Well, it's relatively empty anyway. There's still a couple of things we need to remove, but now we can get on to the main thing in this video, and that is fixing this rust. This will be the most challenging rust repair I've ever personally done. So we're gonna start with the easier part on the back of the Firewall. But to access that, we are going to have to remove this panel right here. And as you can see, I've already kind of started sussing out where all the spot welds are on the panel, because they're actually really hard to see. So we've drilled them out all the way as far as we can go with a tiny drill bit, just to kind of gauge exactly where they are. There's still a couple more to do around here as well. And basically what we're gonna do is take a spot weld drill bit that Woz has here in his hand, and we're gonna drill the spot welds out very patiently.
this has a spring-loaded tip on it, which goes into the hole. The tip is springy.
Ah, that's cool.
So you center punch, or you can drill them with a tiny drill bit, or you can just center punch them.
Yep.
I find if you drill them, it stays there. It cuts a circle,
That's cool.
so it cuts out the spot weld.
That's super handy.
If you're carefully trying to remove something.
Yeah, and we want to put this back exactly the way it came off, so that's why we're doing it very carefully, because the rust is underneath it and there's no way we can fix this without removing this. So right now, we're gonna pull this off very carefully.
Jobs like this one require a lot of patience, something I don't have much of, but I eventually got the piece off, and as it always goes, the rust was worse than we first thought.
Well, we definitely revealed some secrets under that plate. Nothing that we can't take care of course, but it's definitely gonna challenge my fabricating skills, that's for sure. So as you can see, there's rust up here as well as on the back of the Firewall. Also, one thing to note is there is an M6 bolt here, so we are going to have to make sure that that goes back in its same spot so that the thing that bolted to the Firewall can still bolt to the Firewall. But this isn't gonna be super hard to take care of. It looks much worse than it actually is. So what we're gonna do is basically I'll work up the top here first. So I'll cut a section out, get our cardboard out, make our templates, weld that section in, and then move on to the bottom half. We can weld it, treat it, and it'll never come back again, hopefully. Well, that's the plan anyway, so let's cut out some frickin' rust. I worked in reverse this time and made our cardboard template before cutting the rust patch out. Once that was done, I cut our piece out of steel and used a magnet to hold it in place before tacking it in. Once the top piece is done, it's basically a rinse and repeat process for the lower part of the firewall. Although the end result of the welding doesn't look that pretty, once we grind it all down, it actually looked really good. So your boy's been cooking with the fab skills. And that piece of rust is all taken care of. Look at that. Not even bad at all. A little bit of bodywork here, paint, and you won't even know it's there. Of course, we still have to weld our reinforcement plate back in, but we'll have to tidy all of this up first, and then that'll weld back on the top, and you'll never even know that this was here by the time we're finished with this engine bay. There was a piece right here as well that I cut out and welded a plate into, but overall, I'm super happy with that result. And now we're moving on to the part that I've been procrastinating for basically ever since I got this Skyline. The dreaded battery tray. My freaking God. The first thing I'm gonna do is just cut all this out, and that's gonna give us obviously a really good indication for the shape that we need to cut out of our metal sheet and weld into here. I'm not looking forward to this one single bit. Wish me luck. This is the biggest piece of rust I've ever dealt with in my fabrication history. Here we go.
Oh man.
Oh, Jesus. Cancer of the car.
Oh, g'day. Didn't see you there. When we first bought the Skyline, we didn't really know the extent of the rust, but that didn't really bother me because I knew we would at least give it a crack fixing it and would learn a bunch of new skills along the way.
And just like that, the most difficult piece of fab work I've ever had to do is done. I mean, most difficult in terms of shapes anyway, because the shapes in here are so freaking weird. We had to do it in 3 pieces, but I'm definitely happy with the outcome. Obviously, as you see, we've got a lot of grinding to do with our flappy disc to make everything nice and smooth before we go ahead and seal everything, and then we can look at starting to paint this engine bay. We even managed to retain like the shape of this up here, which I'm freaking stoked about because that's one thing that I was worried about. But if you grab a battery, boom, battery tray completed. It looks pretty darn good, I think. I'm definitely happy with the result.
And now it's time to lay some paint on our rust-free engine bay.
I've stripped the engine bay completely back to its bare bones. I removed the whole front subframe because we're going to be doing a full refresh of that as well in this video. So lots of painting and lots of satisfying time lapses, I guarantee it. Before I can get to prepping this engine bay for paint, we have to degrease the hell out of it because, as you can see, it's still got all the grease from 40 years of lifetime. Even though this thing only has 140,000 kilometers on it, it seems like those kilometers were pretty hard kilometers. From what we can tell looking at the Japanese registration on this thing, it lived in an area with lots of snow, and that's why this thing had some rust. Not to mention it sat on a farm for many years as well, so although it hasn't had the best life, we're bringing it back to life, saving the JDM cars one car at a time. I have seen a couple of comments asking exactly what we're going to be doing to this car. Well, I can tell you right now, we're doing an OEM restoration on this thing. No wide body, no coilovers, no wheels. This thing is going to be returned back to perfectly stock and should look almost like a brand new Skyline once it's done.
Anyway, enough talking. Let's push this thing outside and let's degrease the hell out of this thing.
I'll be the first to admit we bit off way more than we could chew with this build, but I'm having an absolute blast learning new skills and bringing this beautiful JDM car back to life. Degreasing a 40-year-old engine bay is so satisfying, but just wait till you see the end result with the paint.
We are taking a break from the Skyline quickly because you OGs of the channel might remember a certain Barn Find RX7 that turned up that I used to have and ended up selling. And well, the car actually just drove up into the driveway, which is pretty crazy. And here it is, look at this. This is that rusty RX7 Series 1 that I used to own, that we started the rust repairs on. When we repaired them back here, both sides were like fully rusted out. And it's so cool to see that our repairs actually turned out really nicely. Look at this thing. These are the original wheels that I had on it as well, the Simmons, and he's repainted them, polished them. It looks absolutely beautiful, this car. He got the interior recovered, the seats, but he said most of the car itself, like the dash and everything like that, was all perfect. He just repainted a bunch of stuff, vinyl spray, and everything turned out super nice. So freaking cool. It's got the original 12A that we had. He said he hasn't changed the engine, the gearbox, or the diff. It's all the original driveline. All he did was literally service it. That's it. So this car has been running absolutely beautifully ever since it left our shop, which is absolutely mind-blowing to me. But look at this thing. I just love it when you sell something to someone and they actually follow through and finish building it. This is blowing my mind right now. Such a cool red as well. This just absolutely made my day. So friggin' nice. All right, back to the Skyline. And the first thing we're gonna do right now is one of the more satisfying things that you get to do when you're doing a full restoration on a car. And that is painting the wear wells with our stone chip guard. So I'm real happy with the way the wear well has turned out. Everything is starting to look awesome. Funny what a little bit of paint can do, but now we're moving straight on to the engine bay. I've already masked everything up and we're basically prepped and ready to spray. First thing, primer, then paint. Let's go.
Sliding into our engine bay, and first we're laying down a high fill primer to minimize any imperfections. I remembered I didn't have my mask on, so I slapped that on and laid down our top coat, which is basically like a shiny primer, as I went with the OEM engine bay color. I prefer to use spray cans over a spray gun here, as it's easier to get into the tight spaces within the engine bay.
Check that out. That actually looks so damn good. I'm over the moon with that result. I know a bunch of you guys would have wanted us to go with a crazy fancy color, but like I said, this is an OEM restoration, so I just wanted to go with the stock engine bay color. I think this is actually slightly lighter. Either that or the engine bay, because obviously it's like 140,000 kilometers old. They dull darker over time, but this does look quite light. And saying that, I think it looks so damn good. I blacked out behind the guards and everything as well. It just looks so tidy like that. The wheel wells came up really nice. Now that the engine bay's painted, it's time to dig into our front subframe and all the front brakes. So this is how our front subframe is looking at the moment. It's so freaking dirty and janky, and now that our engine bay looks so beautiful, we can't put this back in looking like this. And I actually found my first Huntsman spider finally right there. Look at that. It's definitely no longer alive, but oh, there's another one right there as well. So they definitely did exist. That is typical Australia for you. But now what we need to do is rip this whole thing apart, recondition everything, replace anything that needs to be replaced, and get it looking beautiful so that we can put it back into our engine bay and have everything looking brand new. This is honestly some of my favorite work to do on cars. It's so satisfying because it looks so crap right now, but trust me, once we paint it all, get it all beautiful, it's gonna look so good. Let's go. Look at this, it's golden out and our bits and pieces of our subframe are ready to be washed. Look how good the rear wheel drive Evo looks in this light, by the way. God damn, this is easily
the coolest car that I own. Is it though? I think it is. I say that as the Datsun's literally just sitting here in the corner ready to be finished. Anyway, we've pulled apart the whole frickin' subframe. I took the brake pads out as well.
I'll show you the brake discs. So I literally had to grind them to get the brake calipers off the discs because the lip on them was so big. So I had to like grind the lip back so I could actually get the caliper off. And even the pads, man, they are absolutely stuffed. Luckily, we have some brand new stuff from Autobarn to throw in there, but before we can do that, we need to degrease and wash our subframe parts and paint them. Yeah, this is gonna take a while. Let's go. And just like that, all of our parts are looking 1,000 times better and they are ready for a lick of paint.
Whilst we could replace everything here with brand new parts, it's definitely not within our budget, and it's also not within the spirit of this YouTube channel. It's all about refreshing as much as we can and only replacing what needs to be replaced.
So to paint the calipers, we went down and saw the team at Autobarn and grabbed some caliper paint. I wanted to get the proper stuff for these calipers because these are really nice looking brakes and I didn't want to just spray them with any normal paint.
Plus, I've never actually used this stuff before, so it's a good test to see how good it actually is. This is gloss black.
So what we'll do is we'll paint the caliper and then I'm going to grind off the words so they're nice and silver on the black. Should look pretty darn good. Coat number 1, let's go. Oof, immediately just looks so much better. Stuff sprays really nicely.
So while this stuff is drying, we're gonna go ahead and start putting our first things back into our painted engine bay.
Of course, we're gonna start with the subframe. This actually turned out super nice considering how it looked before we washed it off.
While some of that stuff was drying, I actually started putting the loom back in place in the bay.
And figuring out where everything goes is pretty interesting, but it all kind of goes exactly where it needs to, so it's not that hard to figure out kind of where each clip goes, but like even just putting the fuse box back into our freshly painted bay, it just looks so fresh, so I cannot wait to get the rest of this stuff in the bay. Let's go.
So our engine bay is starting to look insane.
And all of the hours of work that we have put in are really starting to pay off.
But now all of our parts are dry, painted,
And complete, we're ready to throw the suspension back into the car. Now I did go down to Autobarn and grab ourselves some brand new brakes, and look at this. Oof, it's gonna come up so nice. Also, didn't even realize, but they sell Brembo brake pads, which is super handy because I really like these pads, so I'll be throwing these in the front. I run the Brembo brake pads in our BMW E36 Pro car, and they're so freaking good, so highly recommend them. Oh, I forgot to mention as well, we have some brand new GK Tech brake lines as well because our old ones were crusty and cracked, so.
But now's the exciting part because we get to throw the suspension back into the front of the car and see it all nicely refreshed. All the hard work is paying off slowly.
Since we're not using all new hardware, I use a wire wheel on all of the bolts to bring them back to life. It's not perfect, but it definitely improves the look. Now we can slap our freshly painted suspension parts and brand new brakes and lines into the Barn Find Skyline.
And look how good that turned out. Like brand new Brembo pads in there. Super stoked. Let's throw them on the car immediately.
Check that out. This is looking so good. One thing I would say is I immediately regret not reconditioning like the shocks and springs, so I am going to pull them back out at some point. What I'll do is I'll take them apart, put new dust collectors in it because these dust protector things are absolutely cactus anyway. The shocks themselves are actually in really good condition. So I'll simply paint the springs, paint the bodies and make them all look nice and put them all back in.
Now I have to do the other side, which I'm not super excited about, but at least now that I've done one side, I'll be super quick at it.
So we're going to smash out the YouTube magic with this one. 3, 2, 1. Boom. Look at that. Whole front end is now in the car. I'm freaking so happy with that. So good. I love fresh brakes. How good does that look? Just incredible. Staying motivated through a build like this is always super difficult, especially at like the midway point, kind of where we are in the build at the moment. It's very difficult to keep the build going, but when you do things like this, look at that, the end result. This has definitely given me a hint of motivation to keep on pushing with this build. Basically now, like here forwards is all brand new on the build. Rust free, good to go. Now we need to go from here backwards and basically do the same thing at the back that we've done at the front. Look how manky it is at the moment. We have a long way to go. I definitely need another coffee before we get this job done. Let's go.
5 coffees later and I completely forgot what was in the boot of this thing.
Oh, more farm. Pretty sure some mice had a freaking orgy in this thing. Jesus Christ. No. So it's ate through here and it's made like a nest in here and a whole family just lived in this boot. Absolutely disgusting. Also, there is another huntsman spider right there, but it's long dead. So happy that all the spiders in this car are not alive. It makes this job a little bit less scary, but we can finally undo our frickin' strut tops now.
With the rear subframe out, we pushed it outside and just like the front subframe, it was absolutely filthy. But that just means it's going to be super satisfying degreasing and spraying it off.
Wow, that was extremely satisfying and I'm stoked with how this came up. I didn't think it would come up so good, to be fair. Like, obviously, yes, it's got patches of surface rust that we can take care of, but everything looks to be in fairly good condition on this rear subframe, which I'm very happy about. Also, I see there's a sticker here that says viscous LSD, which means this is a LSD rear diff, which I believe comes in all the turbo models, so I shouldn't be surprised, but I'm also happy to confirm that that's LSD. So once that dries off, I'm going to give the subframe a lick of paint, swap the brakes over, then we can attack the underside of the car. YouTube magic. Wait, what the hell? Dang, that YouTube magic is strong. They're already installed. Look at this. Fresh as a daisy. I absolutely love doing this. It's so freaking satisfying. I gave the rear subframe a quick rattle can reco as well. Look, the GK Tech brake lines are all in as well. This thing is beautiful.
So I removed all of the fuel and Hikers lines from the underside of the body and got to work removing the fuel tank. I quickly decided this would be best lifting the car off so I didn't drop it, as it still had some fuel in it and was quite heavy. We definitely have our work cut out for us here. I wire brushed the whole underside of the car, which was a super messy and tedious job, but once that was done, it was time to lay down some paint.
Check that out. That is such a satisfying job. I actually really enjoy doing stuff like this. Now, I did run out of the paint to do like the back and the 2 inner guards. So instead what I did was enough so that we could actually fit our rear subframe back into the car. But I am happy that I did wire brush the underside of the car before we sprayed it, because there was still so much of the farm in there somehow underneath the car. So always clean the car before you paint. But man, that just looks so good. I'm over the moon with that. And that should protect it from rust for at least, you know, another 10, 20 years. So now we're gonna put our nicely refreshed kind of subframe back in the car. What does Man Armstrong say? Brand new second-hand subframe. Let's go. And just like that, we have 2 subframes back in the car. What an awesome result. Look at that. There's nothing quite like a fully refreshed underside of the car to make you feel bloody good at the end of a big job. We're officially on the home straight with our R32 paddock find build. This thing has come such a long way. The brand new painted engine bay is looking absolutely amazing, and now it's time to throw our Bayside Blue RB20 turbo motor into the engine bay. If you've watched the previous videos, you'll know that I'm not very well educated when it comes to RB motors, so I've called in a little bit of help from my friend.
That's so bad.
Cameron Martin himself. He's got the best sounding R33 Skyline probably on the planet, to be fair.
Here we go. We got a beautiful RB20 that we're chucking into the R32 Skyline.
Cam was here right at the beginning with this car. We went and picked it up together.
The bloody rabbit out of the engine bay. Oh my god. Funniest thing ever picking up a car.
It's crazy, but when we got this car, it was slush box automatic.
So what have you gotten today?
Well, we're getting rid of the automatic and we are putting in our manual conversion. But right now, we can throw the box onto the motor and we can put it in our brand spanking new secondhand engine bay. Honestly, after all the work that's gone into it, I just can't wait to get all the stuff in the engine bay, stand back and admire the fine work that we have done. Public service announcement. Cam is at 9,444 subscribers. Go subscribe. Here's the top comment on this video.
Oh, thank you so much. Please.
I got your back. Let's go. We've got to get him to 10K.
10K driveway skid. Be there.
I will be there.
So we pulled the engine off the engine stand and started to assemble our flywheel and clutch when immediately we ran into a bit of an issue.
We are not putting the gearbox on right now because we don't have a backing plate. We thought we did have a backing plate because it's right here, but it turns out this is a backing plate from the CA that is in the real drive Evo. Not quite the same.
But we decided to push ahead anyway and put the engine into the engine bay and would fit the gearbox at a later date once we had the backing plate we needed to fit the clutch.
Easiest engine install ever. That was literally just like playing an arcade game, like beep. Like we were putting it down and we're like, that's just gonna go straight down into the mounts. But actually looks phenomenal in the engine bay, just as I'd hoped. Obviously, still plenty of, fab work to do, intercooler piping and all that stuff, but we kind of got an easy job tonight because we didn't have to put it in with the gearbox, but thank you for your help. I'm gonna go get the sandwich plate tomorrow morning. Obviously, we're gonna be back here, throw this thing together and just continue pushing super hard and get as much as we can get done in this video. Not sure if we'll get started, but you'll know because you're watching this video right now. Cameron, I always appreciate you.
Always.
The RB Wizard. Please go subscribe to Cam. Let's get him to 10K. This is Cam's vlogging setup currently. This is his tripod. This is his camera. So yeah, he needs your help to get to 10K so he can buy a better setup. See you guys in the morning. More RB goodness.
Thanks for watching.
Arigato. Hey. Bye. And just like that, we are back. We've managed to source a sandwich plate for our gearbox, so we can now go ahead and throw the gearbox into the car. I've already bolted the XC clutch up to our flywheel. Of course, we use brake cleaner on all of the surfaces when we install the clutch, just to make sure it's all nice and beautifully clean, free of oils. But let's throw the gearbox in the car.
Getting the gearbox installed in the car was a huge job ticked off, and as you can see, I was stoked to have it done. While the car was up in the air, I pressure washed and painted our dirty fuel tank before throwing in some brand new Raceworks hose and installing the tank in the car, as we'll need it to start the car later in the video.
Look at that. So good. The underside of the rear end is pretty much complete with the fuel tank in there. It looks so much better. I also went ahead and threw the fuel lines in as well. So basically under here we're done, other than having to bleed the brakes and throw our drive shaft in. So now it's time to bring the car down and start working in the engine bay. I'm hoping we can get this thing running. That would be absolutely insane.
So I brought the car down and my ADD definitely got the better of me as I immediately started fitting parts to the front of the car. Only there was a little bit of confusion with how everything went back together, but we got there in the end.
I literally said to jump on YouTube and watch our video dismantling this to figure out how to put it
back together. So I guess that's one of the bonuses about doing YouTube, is having those videos to reference when we're putting everything back together. So it's now time to fit the power steering pump, the alternator, and in a first for me, the air conditioning compressor back onto the motor. Usually I just delete the air conditioning, but because we are doing an OEM restoration on this thing, and I honestly just want it back to exactly how it rolled out of the factory, maybe with a little more power, but for the most part, as factory as possible, that means we need to keep the air conditioning. We also have brand new belts to throw onto the motor thanks to the team at Barn. Exciting part of the build, we get to put the radiator in. So I have an alloy radiator here. This is actually a radiator I had left over from the rear-wheel drive Evo build that we never ended up using. I've mounted the stock plastic shroud to the radiator and it fits nicely, so let's throw it in and see. Well, I don't actually know if everything fits inside the engine bay, but it looks like it's gonna fit nicely. Stoked that we ended up using the stock shroud. I think it looks just really nice and tidy, but the aftermarket radiator does just add that little bit of bling. And now it's time to do the next really fun part of the whole turbo setup. And that of course is our front mounted intercooler setup. So we are using just the stock universal max feeding rods, front mount intercooler, and intercooler piping kit. What I really like about these kits is they're a nice budget option because we're doing a nice OEM restoration, low power, but of course I didn't want to throw the old OEM side mount intercooler back into this thing. They aren't very effective at all, and they're also very difficult to find these days. We also went for the black intercooler because we want that nice stealthy look. It is kind of nice to keep things low key these days as well. These intercooler kits are also really good because they come with a bunch of bends, a bunch of straights, and all the silicone joiners. These T-bolt clamps I tend not to use. I prefer the worm style clamps, so we'll be using those instead. But if you are shopping on the Max Bedding Rods website, don't forget, use my code MikeLake, grab yourself 10% off for anything on the website. But I'm really excited to throw these into our Skyline, and while I've been talking, Woz is over here working away. He's already began modifying the piping, but look how good it's gonna look in the engine bay with our Bayside Blue engine covers. I am rather excited about this one. By the way, we are going for a no holes intercooler kit here, which means we do not want to be cutting any holes in the body of this car because we want to keep this car nice and legal. And when you cut holes in the body of the car, well, the authorities tend not to like that when you take the car in for safety checks. That means the piping will be a little bit longer, but longer piping means a louder dose, which we are definitely not angry about. So first things first, we're going to throw the front reinforcement bar on and we're going to fit up our front mounted intercooler.
I always like to use a jack to get the intercooler in the perfect position, as it's super easy to set it at the perfect height.
So here we have our intercooler mounts going on. So basically what we have here is L brackets. Woz is made up, they're just going straight onto our Rio here. So we'll literally just weld them across here, and then the intercooler sits beautifully like that in the back.
How good is that?
Doesn't need nothing.
Oh, that's so good. Look at that, so stealth under there. That is such a classic R32 look. Back in New Zealand, everyone just had their front mounts tucked up like that. So good. Tucked in beautifully back there. Really happy with that.
I bent up brackets to mount the bottom of the intercooler to the chassis, and just like that, our intercooler is mounted. Then we move straight onto our intercooler piping, first installing the easy bits so we can figure out exactly where we need to route the piping. Then it's all about measuring, cutting, welding, and smiling to bring it all together.
Test fit time. Whoo! Look at that.
So we're almost finished with the routing of our intercooler piping. We have one little bit left to go, and look who just turned up.
Cam's back.
What up?
Which kind of makes sense. You were here at the start of the video, now you're here at the end of the video. By the way, if you aren't subscribed to his channel, why are you not? go subscribe. So, the intercooler piping. We have our intercooler mounted up the front, super tidy. So happy with it. And then we've got the piping going up here, through the holes that were already there from the stock intercooler, through here, and then boom, into our new turbo. That's on the cold side. Is that the cold? No, that's the hot side. That's on the hot side. Then on the cold side, this side was a little more complicated to do because we're obviously trying to have a no holes intercooler kit, no cutting holes in the body. So we didn't want to go through the nice new battery tray that we made. So we've gone down here and upwards through the little hole between the caster arm and the body. So now we just have one more piece of the puzzle, and that's the pipe that goes from here to here. So we want to have one silicone joiner here just so that we can remove this pipe because we need to be able to put oil in the car. And I just think it looks so good. It's classic RB, like intercooler piping. This is exactly what I grew up with in New Zealand. So we're gonna do the last piece of the piping. We need to put oil into the motor, bolt up the starter motor, do a bunch of loom stuff. Cam is the RV wizard, so he's gonna double check that I've not done anything absolutely stupid. How's it look so far?
It all looks pretty good. You did forget one thing, but that's no issue. We can fix that pretty easily.
Classic Mike.
Yeah.
Other than that, happy.
I'm actually really surprised. Like when I was here last, just the motor was in. It's all coming together.
It's pretty good. It takes so much time because like I wanted to make sure I painted everything. If you don't paint something, it sticks out like dog's balls.
Yep. The thing you forgot is this, and it looks so ratchet.
Trash. Exactly. So that's all right though. We won't leave any soldier behind when it comes to this stuff. We're gonna make sure it's all good to go. So we're just gonna keep working. Next up, finish the piping. Cam is gonna finish welding it because Wallace had to go home. I'm lucky I've got so many welders in my life.
That's it.
Because I cannot alloy weld for crap. Let's go.
Neither can I, so.
Yeah. Just squint and you'll be sweet. Let's go. So we're just having a dinner break and Cam has finished all the welds on the cooler piping. Cam, rate your welds, please. I mean, I think that they look fantastic, but you weld all the time.
5 out of 10.
I mean, to be fair, I didn't give you a lot of like prep time or anything. But I think they look fantastic. Cam, thank you for doing all the welds. The piping is all ready, so we're gonna throw it into the car. You know what? We're just gonna put this in right now. I gotta put a hose clamp on there, damn it. So the final piece of the puzzle is going into the car. Actually, not final piece to be fair, we've still got to do the intake pipe. But this is the final piece of the intercooler piping, which is really exciting. By the way, intercooler piping, not a 5-minute job. It actually takes ages, dude.
Not at all.
Shout out to the fabricators, like Cam and Woz, because that looks good, dude. I'm super happy with that.
I was happy with this weld, but you've covered it up.
Yes, sorry about that. Oh, should we let's put oil on it first.
What?
Damn it.
No. Oh, yeah. Don't mind the janky setup of the igniter here. We're just doing this so we can get it started. But before we chuck the battery in, I just wanted to mention that when you do a manual conversion on an automatic car, there is a neutral switch down here for your wiring. Down here, you can see we've got the plug for the neutral switch. There's 2 big wires there. Just bridge them. That'll trick the ECU into thinking that it is in neutral or park and the car will start.
Oh, we're so close though. And of course, the beautiful Optima battery. So I haven't actually told you guys, but Optima batteries have jumped on board, which is actually insane because the biggest problem we have here in the shop is the cars going flat in the shop all the time, and moving them around is such a pain in the freaking backside. So Optima came on board, hooked us up with a bunch of Optima batteries, and they've also come on board for the next build that's coming up on the channel, which
I cannot wait.
yeah, that's gonna be freaking crazy.
I want to thank Optima because it's me half the time pushing these cars around.
It is. So good. So
go.
slap that baby in, but they just look so good as well. Oh my god, it looks so good in there though. Isn't it good?
Huge, hey?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
It's so good. I actually have one over here in the Datsun as well, and honestly, I've never heard this thing crank so fast in my entire life. So, and they just look so good in the engine bays. So I couldn't be happier with Optima coming on board, but yeah, unfortunately, these are large posts. We have small posts here, so we might have to just G-clamp them for now to the posts. We're probably good to start.
Yeah, we'll crank it over, build some more pressure.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, plug the CAS in, fire it up.
I'm so excited. That is like, wow. Look how far this thing's come from when we wheeled this thing in here.
The last time I was here, this thing was just a rat's nest.
Like,
so it's cool to see the change.
You weren't happy with me buying it. That's how bad it was.
Yeah, I was saying, no deal.
No deal. Oh, so after so much friggin' work, what's the time?
It is 10:52.
And this thing is ready to crank over.
No time at the present.
Let's go.
You ready?
Yep. Dude, that is...
It cranks over.
It cranks so fast. It's actually... No lie, these batteries are insane. Like...
Don't film the terminals.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we just... No, actually, this is better than G-clamp, to be fair.
Yeah.
So that's fine. We'll put the bigger terminals on. I'm not fussed about that. But we actually have the CAS unplugged at the moment, by the way, because we're trying to build oil pressure first. And just make sure everything spins and everything is exactly as it is.
So now we've cranked it over for a little bit to get some oil pressure. We're going to plug in the CAS. Plug that CAS in. Here we go.
Yep. That did not sound at all like it wanted to go. All right, so we have our first problem. It does not go. And now we diagnose the problem for the next hour or so. Skip forward to about 10 minutes of diagnosing, so not too bad. And I've made the age-old mistake of getting the fuel lines around
Oh no.
the wrong way, and he just popped fuel all over the engine bay.
I blame you for this.
Wow.
I told you to flip the lines.
Yeah, I forgot. I apologize.
I'm only gonna rag. I don't want to mess up your fresh paint, but
Yeah, the fresh engine bay.
Engine bay.
Whenever you are trying to diagnose an issue with the car, always obviously check spark and check fuel, and always check whether the fuel lines are around the right way, because I've actually had it many times where that is...
It's so
Wrong.
easy to overlook. Obviously, in this scenario, we did exactly that.
That's exactly. So I think, hopefully now that Cam swapped them over, thank you Cameron, the thing should actually start. Both lines on?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go again. This is genuine, like, first start. We have not tried to start this. It has not started off camera, so hopefully it starts right now.
Here we go.
Let's go. Yay! There we go.
Just started.
Yeah, sorry. I'm so rev happy. I always do
Hell
that.
yeah, boy.
Dude, I'm stoked. All right, let's give it another try. One more try before we call it a night. That's so funny.
I'm like, it sounded like it was like Ron knocking for a second. I'm like, oh no.
Nah, she's all good. It's just a little bit of no exhaust. You can't really hear you can hear a little bit of flutter though, which is awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
I really wanted to start it for the first time in this video, and when I mean the first time, I mean first time with the refreshed engine bay. Obviously, we've still got a bunch of things to tidy up. Well, this is it, ladies and gentlemen, the final video on our Barn Find R32 Skyline restoration. And the last thing left to do is to get the exterior of the car looking as good as the underside of the car looks. And that means we're gonna have to paint this thing. So before the Skyline is ready for paint, we do have a couple of jobs we need to do in terms of bodywork. I do still need to finish the rust repairs we did on the rear quarters. I just need to final weld these, and I'm trying to use as little bog as possible. It looks like we've got these pretty good. It'll just need a light skim of bog there, and I've already laid the bog over the small dings that we had on the body, so we just need to sand that down. But the body for the most part is like really straight, so all we need to do is a quick 600 over most of the body, and then we're pretty much ready to paint this thing, which is freaking awesome. I'm so keen to see this thing all one color looking beautiful again.
I decided to paint the bumpers, front guards, bonnet and spoiler first, as it's much easier to get a nice finish when you lay the parts out flat. So we removed the rear bumper and the GDR spoiler and gave them all a good wash to remove the last of the dirt from sitting for 10 years in a paddock. This is also a really good chance to double check there's no rust developing on the underside of those panels. Once they're all clean, it's time to lightly sand the panels before sealing them with primer.
The front guards are now fully prepped and ready to paint. On this channel, I really like to do as much of the work to the cars as possible, including painting them. And every car I paint, I'm getting a little bit better each time, so it's gonna be interesting to see how this one turns out.
There are two different types of paint you can use. The easiest is a single stage paint like the one we used on the rear-wheel drive Evo build. You simply spray the color on the car and essentially you're done. On the Barn Find Skyline, we're using the more complicated two-stage method. This is when you apply a base coat of color first, then apply a clear coat layer over the color that essentially protects the base coat from UV rays and gives it that super shiny look. Once we've got our paint mixed and poured into our $49 Bunnings paint gun, I wipe down all of our panels with prep wash and we're ready to lay down some paint.
So I'm now at the back of the shop in the Drop the Anchor room. If you didn't know what Drop the Anchor is, it's one of the businesses that I own. It's a merch label, droptheanchorclothing.com.au if you want to check it out. But this is clearly also the room where I let all my panels dry. But look at that. The guards look absolutely fantastic. Both of them came out amazing. Really happy with that. The bumper's looking super nice. Look at that. So shiny. Looking brand new. But unfortunately, I have made one rookie mistake. Now, I don't paint very often, and because of that, I completely forgot you're supposed to do a control coat. Basically, it's just like a mist coat over the top with the metallics to make sure that things don't look streaky. I forgot to do that with the bonnet, and as you can see, it looks pretty streaky, so that's a massive rookie move on my part, but luckily it's quite easily fixable. I'll give it a quick 600 sand down and then I will repaint it, but do the guide coat. Luckily I bought plenty of paint, so repainting it is not an issue. But now we move on to the main bodywork on the body. We have a couple more hours to go on that before we can throw the car in our makeshift booth and paint it. Alright, it's time to finish off this welding finally. I have been procrastinating this welding for so long and it's finally time to finish it off, so let's go.
Once we've finished all of the welding, I threw some etch primer onto the metal to make sure it didn't rust in the future. Then it's time to lay down our bog, sand the bog, then lay primer over the bog, and once we've done that, I think we've earned ourselves a coffee. Good dog.
That is some mediocre coffee. And just like that, the bodywork is done. That section of bodywork just then took me 2 whole days. I know it goes really fast in the videos, but dang, bodywork is just the bane of my existence. But I have to say, I'm very proud of the work that we've done. Specifically in this area here, because this was just extremely difficult to get perfect. We took so much metal out of this section, and I am by no means a panel beater, so to get like this section nice and straight, so difficult. But I'm very happy with how it has turned out. We've got our seam sealer in here as well. Everything is good to go. The rear quarters are also done. But that means we can now officially get the car off the hoist onto the ground and start building our makeshift spray booth. As you can probably hear, it is currently raining, which isn't the best conditions to be painting a car. But we need to get it done today, and I'm mildly optimistic that we can make this thing look absolutely awesome. So let's pull it off the hoist and let's get it done.
Before we can paint the car, I sanded the whole thing down using 600 grit sandpaper on a machine sander. Then it only took heaps of hours to mask the whole thing up, and we're almost ready to paint.
And finally, after so much prep, we are ready to paint the Skyline. The makeshift booth has been set up. Look at that. It may not look like much, but this is actually a pretty effective setup. Let me show you inside. So I've fully prep washed the car and it's ready literally to be painted now. And as you can see, the most important thing when you are painting a car is having as much light as possible. That is because you want to be able to see the overlaps when you're spraying. The most frustrating thing, it's really annoying when you can't see those overlaps and then you go back and look later and realize you missed a complete line of clear. Lucky for me, Woz is an electrician, and so he's basically set up a bunch of lights for me in here, and wow, we're pretty well lit and ready to go. So now is the moment of truth. I'm slightly nervous. I just really want this to pay off. So much prep work. So let's paint this frickin' car.
As you can see here while I'm painting, I am massively constrained by space, but we're making it work. I really concentrate on making sure my paint is overlapping properly, and if the gun's spraying well, generally speaking, the base coat will lay down really nicely. One of the most annoying things is the compressor air line that gets in the way all of the time.
base coat laid down absolutely beautifully. To be honest, I couldn't be happier. So what I do now is just rub it down quickly with the tack cloth once that's flashed off, just to make sure that there's no random bits sitting on top of the paint, and because we're not in a proper booth, there will be, so the tack cloth really does a big job there. Then we'll lay down the clear, so.
Look at that rear quarter. Oof, she looks good.
And just like that, our R32 Barn Find Skyline is now freshly painted. But I've just done like a 12-hour day on this thing, so we're gonna have to come back in the morning to see exactly how good or bad this thing looks in the light. So I'll see you guys in the morning. Bye. All right, so we are back, and I've just been inside and had a quick look at the car, and I pulled all of the masking off the car, and I am pleasantly surprised. It is always a very nerve-wracking experience coming in and looking at the car the day after you painted it the night before. But I think we've definitely outdone ourselves with this one. I'm actually really happy with the results. You ready?
So take a look at that. Look how freaking good that looks. There is one run which is like right here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it in camera that I have to fix, but like, other than that, how good does that look?
I haven't yet had a chance to respray the bonnet, so that is still looking streaky, but the rest of the car is beautifully sprayed, nice and even, and I honestly couldn't be happier. And now is the fun part. So right now, with the help of my good friend Woz, we are gonna put the car back together.
We decided to put the passenger door back on the car first, so I had to turn the car around outside. And to be honest, any excuse to drive this car and hear those beautiful turbo RB20 noises is always a good thing.
Boom. So shiny. So happy. On to the next thing. Rear bumper. Let's go.
Time to throw the genuine GDR wing on the boot. Hell yeah. How good is that? Absolutely insane JDM goodness. And now it is time to do the front end. Here we go. Boom. Don't know if that worked or not, but you'll know because you're watching the edit right now.
This car has sat in the shop with no front panels for so long, I've honestly forgotten what it looks like complete. But piece by piece, as we put this thing back together, the once rusty Barn Find Skyline is really starting to look like it belongs back on the streets.
Whew, that is so satisfying.
So now I have to attempt to put the bonnet on all by myself because I'm the only one here at the workshop right now. So wish me luck. I've not been squatting enough for this. Whoa, jeez, that was close. It definitely feels awesome to have the whole car complete and back together, but I have to admit the bonnet is definitely the most disappointing part of the whole paint job.
And that is because of all the streaks that you can see in the bonnet. But do not worry,
I am gonna repaint the bonnet, but at the moment the weather outside is just too cold. So I've got to wait for a warmer day before I can repaint it, which means it won't be painted perfectly in this video.
but it's still shiny, so that's good. And overall, like, holy crap. The car looks so good.
But there are two more jobs we need to address before we can call our Barn Find restoration complete. And the first one is the interior. So when we picked this thing up, the interior was in really bad shape. Although it was complete, which is what I was looking for, when I bought it, the dash was absolutely cactus, and we've replaced this, but clearly we're missing the vents, and we've done a manual swap. So we need something to fill this hole. That's what she said. I purchased these off Just Jap online, and these are gonna transform the way this interior looks and just completely finish it off. Brand new vents is something that, oh, look at that. It's like the cherry on top for this interior. Vent number 2, so satisfying when they just click in like that. Oof. Look at that. How good does that look? Now, I found it really difficult to find the manual shifter surround online, so what I did was modify the auto one that we already had. We sell these universal shifter boots online, very handy in this situation. So what I did was just cut it out really nicely on the top to make room for our shifter. Then underneath, you just cut the shifter boot to size and then super glue it underneath, and boom, we have a shifter surround that works with our manual setup. Of course, we need a shift knob. I'm just throwing one of these Nismo shift knobs on. Both of these available on my website, twostepgarage.com. Oh, look at that. So good. Works absolutely perfectly. I'm actually really happy with that. This interior is starting to look really tidy. And I feel like the older you get, the more you appreciate a tidy stock OEM style interior. Maybe it's just me, but the last thing we need in this interior, of course, is a steering wheel. Now I am dropping our OEM steering wheel off this week to be reupholstered, and I am gonna fit this in this car, but for now, to complete the interior, we're throwing in a brand new TSG steering wheel. They're available in flat, medium, or deep dish, and the quality is through the roof. I absolutely love them. I've chosen a medium dish. They come with these awesome Angry Boy horn buttons. I designed these myself, available in black, pink, or teal, and you get to choose which one you want at checkout, which is pretty freaking cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw this on the car. And of course, the best part, check that out. Holy moly. The interior is now fairly complete and looks so good. So we've got one more job we need to do before we can get this thing outside and see it for the first time in the daylight, complete. Now that the body of the car is looking so good, the wheels are just not cutting the mustard. And since I'm a bit short on time, we're gonna use the old YouTube magic. 3, 2, 1. Oof, that's fancy.
As I pull the car out of the shop, I can't help but think about the insane journey this car has been on. From being a street car in Japan to being neglected and left for dead in a paddock in Australia, to being found by 2 idiots who love cars and being given a completely new lease on life. This project was so much bigger than I anticipated when we first picked it up, but I'm so glad we did. When you look back at just how bad this car was, the transformation is pretty incredible. And now this R32 Skyline is ready to be enjoyed as it was intended the day it left the showroom floor.
And with that, we have now come to the end of the Barn Find R32 restoration. And unfortunately, as you would have seen in the thumbnail, I'm going to have to sell this car. My intentions when we bought this car was always to restore it and keep it. All of the old JDM cars are skyrocketing in value, and these things are such a good investment. But a couple of weeks ago, I had an opportunity present itself to me that I just could not turn down, and that means I had to sell one of my cars. As you know, on this channel, I love to build weird, fun, quirky stuff. We've got the rear wheel drive Evo, we've got the turbo Datsun 280ZX, we have our turbo drift car, and out of all the cars that I own, the OEM factory Skyline just doesn't quite fit into the mold of the rest of what we do on this channel. So it makes total sense to sell this thing to someone who can really enjoy it after we've brought it back from the grave. Behind this veil is our brand new project, and you guys will understand when we drop that project next week on the channel why I'm selling this car and how exciting the next project is going to be. It's easily the biggest thing we've ever done on this channel. It's going to be massive, but thank you guys so much for joining me on the journey with the Barn Find R32 Skyline. I couldn't be happier with the way this thing has turned out. It's absolutely beautiful, and I really hope that someone buys it and enjoys it for what it is. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe if you can. It really helps the channel. Drop a comment and I will see you guys in the next video when we're releasing our new project. Poos! Bye! Look at that, an absolutely beautiful, fully restored JDM R32 Skyline. So good, very happy. Bye!